Okay, so here's the example of how to find these key features. So we're given this equation here, and it's already graphed for us. In the next example, we'll have to graph it first, but just to practice these key features, we're given the graph this time. So we're going to find the value of A, and here's the vertex form, just as a reference there. So the value of A is that stretch of 2 here. So A equals 2, and that tells us the value of A is 2, and that tells us that this is going to be a vertical stretch by 2. And since 2 is positive, it also tells us that there's no reflection over the x-axis, so this parabola is going to open up. Parabola opens up, okay? So that's what that 2 tells us. Now the vertex is the H and K. So H is 3 and K is 4. So the vertex is 3, 4. Now be careful here, because you might look at this and say, oh, H is -3. But remember, in our formula, it's minus H. We're only looking at this value here, so it's really opposite. It's not -3, but it's going to be +3. And then you just take the value of that number, 4. So change the sign of the H, keep the sign of the K. Okay, axis of symmetry. So that's here. And that would be the x value of the vertex. So if my vertex is at 3, 4, my axis of symmetry is at x equals 3. So axis of symmetry, x equals 3. And this is a minimum value because it's opening up, and 3, 4 is the lowest point. So, and we use, for minimums, we use the y value. Y equals 4. So the y value of the vertex. So our minimum value is y equals 4. There's no maximum value. Our domain is the x values left to right, so -infinity to +infinity. Or you could say all the reals. That fancy sign R means all the reals. And then the range is from 4 to infinity. Okay? Or you could say that y, the y values are greater than or equal to 4. Okay? All right, so let's practice these. Let's go to page 3 in our note packet here. Okay, so this one we need to graph first. So if you'd like, this is a good time to pause the video and try this on your own. So we're going to start with our parent function. Starting with the parent function, f of x equals x squared. Okay? And then we're going to complete this chart. So the first thing we need to do is describe the transformations, and we're going to use the order of operations to do that. So we're going to look at parentheses first. That would be our movement right to left, or our horizontal shifts. So this is going to be a horizontal shift 4 units to the left. And what does that do in our chart? That moves the x values. So x minus 4 shows that it's going to shift it to the left. Now we're going to look at multiplication. There's no multiplication for this one, no stretch or compression. So then we'll go to the negative, which tells me it's a reflection over the x-axis. Reflection over the x-axis. And this is going to make my y's negative in my chart. I'm going to make all the y's negative. And then lastly, addition, subtraction. So we have a minus 5 here, so that tells me it's a vertical shift, down 5, vertical shift, down 5, and that's going to be the y minus 5 there in our chart. All right, so starting with the parent function, the vertex is 0, 0. Ignore that. And then we'll plug in 1. 1 squared is 1. 2. 2 squared is 4. 3. 3 squared is 9. And we don't need to go any higher than that. All right, then we're going to deal with our horizontal shifts. So we're going to do this x minus 4. X minus 4. So I'm going to take these x values and I'm going to subtract 4. So 0. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Then I go to the 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. 2. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. 3. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Then I'm going to reflect it over the x-axis, which makes my y values negative. So 0, change that 1 to negative 1, negative 4, negative 9. And then lastly, I'm going to shift it down 5. So I'm going to take this column here and subtract 5. So 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Then negative 1. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. Then I'll go to negative 4. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. And then negative 9 minus 5 is negative 14. All right, so my points are my outer columns, okay? So my vertex comes first here at negative 4, negative 5. Negative 4, negative 5. That is my vertex. Okay. So if I look here, I remember we changed the sign of the H and keep the sign of the K. So negative 4, negative 5 is the vertex. All right, my value of A is this number here, so that's negative 1, and that tells me it's opening down, which I know because it's a reflection over the x-axis here. All right, so let's plot some of these points and then we can answer the rest of the questions here. So I've got negative 4, 5 as my vertex, and then I'll plot negative 3, negative 6. And then I have negative 2, negative 9. Okay, and the rest is going to be too far off the graph there. All right, so I know that this is my vertex, which means that my axis of symmetry is right here going through it at x equals negative 4. All right, so there's my axis of symmetry, x equals negative 4. And then I can reflect these points over that axis of symmetry to complete my parabola, my graph here. And then I see that this is a max value, where I have a highest point here at y equals 5. And there's no minimum value. My domain is left value, the x value is left to right, so negative infinity to positive infinity, which is all the reals. And then my range is my y values bottom to top, so negative infinity to -5. Or I can say y is less than or equal to -5. Okay. Pause the video and you try this last problem. All right. Okay, hopefully you tried that one. So let's check it. Okay, so I'm using my equation here. I'm going to describe my transformation. So I'm going to start with parentheses, and that tells me it's a horizontal shift right 4, which is going to be x plus 4 in my chart. And then I'll deal with this stretch here. I have a vertical stretch by 3, which is going to multiply my y values by 3 in my chart. So in my chart, I'm starting with my parent function, x squared, and I'll start with the vertex, 0, 0, and I'll plug in 1, 1 squared is 1, plug in 2, 2 squared is 4, plug in 3, 3 squared is 9. And then I'm going to shift it to the right, so I'm going to add 4 to my x column. So 0 plus 4 is 4, 1 plus 4 is 5, 2 plus 4 is 6, 3 plus 4 is 7. Then I'm going to stretch it by 3. So I'm going to multiply all these values by 3. And then my ordered pairs are my outside columns here. So I'll start with my vertex at 4, 0. And then I'll plot 5, 3. And then 6, 6, 12. Well, that's going to be too far off. But this is enough to tell me what this graph looks like. Here's my axis of symmetry. Then I'll reflect this point. All right, now I can answer these questions. So the value of A is 3, which told me that was going to be a stretch of 3 and it was going to open up. My vertex is 4, 0. My axis of symmetry is x equals 4. My minimum value is y equals 0. No max. Domain is negative infinity to infinity, or all the reals. And then the range is 0 to positive infinity, or y is greater than or equal to 0. And that concludes this lesson.